When I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about, I'm usually thinking about how do I get time to meditate so that I can set my day off right. I'm a big mantra lover. I'm a big ritual lover. I love tea. I love incense, candles, stones, like we said already, crystals. But I'm big on prayer, and I just really intend for what I'm hoping to come out of the moment.
Do you consider yourself a spiritual person?
Very, very spiritual, and just very connected to, to the universe.
I wasn't lying in the song where I was like, life got me meditating. I really be getting my mind right before I get in the booth. When I meditate, man, I usually go somewhere super quiet, where I'm just by myself. First of all, I close my eyes, I get real centered. My mind be racing, I try and slow it down as much as I can, concentrate on my breathing. Call it crazy or whatever, but I can just tell you that it really affects how I feel. Usually what that does is just raise my vibration, man. I'm just ready for it. And then I go in the studio and knock the...
That there's little sparks of we're all kind of one, and we've all just divided into our own little sources of energy and our own little souls, but we're all kind of one in a way, I think.
Your spiritual well-being, what is your spiritual practice that gets you through all these different enormous challenges and opportunities that you have?
I meditate. And I believe in God. I believe in God, and I believe that there is a reason that this is all happening. And if I can stay present to that divine energy, I can really cope with anything. It's only when my humanity takes over that I fall apart, which happens and of course will always happen. But there's in Letters to a Young Poet by Rilke, he says something in one of his letters where he says, something like, imagine that life is always in the right. And that's been a very powerful idea for me, that no matter what happens, life is in the right. So whatever the challenge, whatever the obstacle, whatever's in front of you, life, meaning God, is in the right. So when I can remember that and stay in that, stay connected to that consciousness, then, I don't have a nervous breakdown.
I woke up and I suddenly got it. I understood suddenly how thought was just an illusory thing. And how thought is responsible for, if not all, most of the suffering we experience. And then I suddenly felt like I was looking at these thoughts from another perspective. And I wondered, who is it that's aware that I'm thinking? And suddenly I was thrown into this expansive, amazing feeling of freedom from myself, from my problems. I saw that I was bigger than what I do. I was bigger than my body. I was everything and everyone. I was no longer a fragment of the universe. I was the universe. And ever since that day, I've been trying to get back there.
People need to live spiritual lives. All of us, I'm a person, and it's good to have access to the infinite consciousness that is available to all people, but through the five senses is delineated, keeping us trapped on a material plane. We think reality is what we can apportion through the limited instruments of the senses, but reality is, of course, far beyond that. Spiritual data, we don't have the correct instruments to receive it, and we live primarily in the realm of the senses. Anything that we're describing through science, we're describing through the prism of the five limited senses. Our eyes can only see between infrared light and ultraviolet ultraviolet light. There's light bouncing around everywhere. Our ears can only hear a tiny decibel range, can't hear the noise of a dog whistle, can't hear any high-pitched frequency sounds. Isn't it likely then that there are other vibrations, frequencies, energies, consciousness moving through the universe? Consciousness is an amorphous and expanding entity. I think that we allow our consciousness to be prohibited by our senses, prescribed by our senses, living in the realm of these 5 apertures into our reality. But reality is limitless, space is infinite, time eternal. Through yoga, one can temporarily break the bonds that chain us to the mundane, the mondial, that which is of the earth, and we can temporarily at least receive a taste of the infinite. I don't want to get too cosmic about it, but we are just this sort of temporary blob of atoms, you know, endowed with consciousness for the merest moments in infinite space. Meditation and yoga, these are fundamental parts of my life. I think it's difficult these days with religion getting such a rough ride, the Pope resigning, bloody terrorism and nonsense. It's difficult to find an access to spirituality, but we are by our nature spiritual people. If we don't have access to spirituality, we suffer as individuals, society suffers.
And that comes from starting the morning off with meditation. For me, it's really just listening to my inner self. I mean, that's basically it. Like you sit in silence and you just allow these thoughts to come forward, and you get a chance to observe the self and things that may be lying beneath the surface that if you don't have that time to sit quietly on your own, you'll never pay attention to. You know, because if you think about it, like, you know, the reality is we're paying attention to so many things that are going on around us. We're constantly taking selfies, we're constantly taking pictures to post on Instagram and all these other things, and we're constantly observing everything that's around us, but we don't take the time to really observe what's going on inside of ourselves. And that's what meditation is for me.
Before the sun comes up, I offer myself to something greater than myself. If it's for 1 minute, 20 seconds, or 10 minutes, I at least stop in that space in my house every morning. I have a little meditation space where I just go. I have beautiful spiritual readings there. I light my 3 candles there, daily word or something. And I express to this greater energy field than I that I don't want to be alone as I move out into the world.
I look at meditation, what happens in those 20 minutes is, you know when you break a glass and all the shards go spraying everywhere and there's just pieces everywhere, but then if you've recorded that and you can reverse it, play it backwards, all those pieces all of a sudden come all back to whole again and the glass is full of water again and you're like, how did that happen? Well, that's the same thing as what happens in your mind with meditation. You're frazzled by 5:30 in the afternoon. All the pieces are shattered everywhere. They're fragmented. You can't think. You can't hold anything. And you meditate for 20 minutes and the next thing you know, everything becomes whole again. You're a vessel that is capable of holding and carrying what it needs to. And that's what meditation really, why I love it so much.
And I know you and I both believe that you call things into your life and that things happen as they should when you're ready for it to happen. What would be your big lesson from this whole
thing? The other day, I was doing yoga and with my girlfriend, and we finished, we were sort of sitting there just sort of stretching. And I looked over at her and I said, you know what, I have to say I'm feeling a feeling I don't know if I've ever actually felt before. And that is that I don't want to be anywhere other than where I am right now, sitting across from you. And that means, you know, I'm not sitting somewhere dwelling on the past, or I'm not fretting or, you know, obsessing about something in the future or something that was, you know, it was a feeling of total peace. But the truth is, and you sit there going, well, how do I do that? How, you know, and you're frustrated, and then you get down on yourself because you're not there yet, and then you just realize one day it's happened. It's collected in your, you know, your cellular memory, and then one day you're sitting there with your friend doing yoga, and you go, oh, I get it.
I'm okay.
I get it.